Hi, I'm Mike Isom, and you're watching the Respect Yourself Network. Welcome to this week's show. Today we're going to be talking about when your help hinders others, or a subtitle, if you will, learning how to get out of the way. Now, this is the Respect Yourself Network, and as I say every week, this is an opinion show aimed at men out there. If you are a man, if you know a man, if you come in contact with a man, these ideas that I'm trying to put out there are aimed at trying to reach that audience. I just happen to believe that men in recent years have kind of taken a back seat in the leadership role that God intended for us from the beginning. We're not taking leadership roles in our families. We're not taking leadership roles in the church. We're not taking leadership roles in the community, and it's putting us in a bad light. Now, I'm thinking that it's time for us to start stepping up, trying to build a network of togetherness where men helping men become better versions of themselves, teaching us how to be better husbands, helping us to understand how to be better leaders in the church, leaders in the community, how to be better fathers, how to be better men all the way around. Now, this is an opinion show. All these things that I'm talking to you about are based on my opinion. Now, I don't claim to be an expert on any things that I talk to you about, but I can say without any degree of hesitation that I am a man, I'm a Christian man, and I'm a happily married man. And everything I come to you will be coming to you about from those perspectives, a happily married Christian man. So, again, I don't expect you to agree with everything I say. Matter of fact, I'm hoping that you don't agree with everything I say, because it forces you to think about your position on some of these topics and ideas. And one of these days, real soon, we're going to get together and talk about your ideas, I hope. But that's what the Respect Yourself Network is all about. Men reaching out to other men, trying to build a network of understanding and communication. Now, before we get into this week's show, I want to talk to you again about this thing that I'm happy to report that my circle of 7 is now complete. Now, the circle of 7 is what I tell you about every week when we start this thing, is that myself, along with 6 other men, coming together, networking, talking about things that are important to us. These are guys that I can reach out to, that I can be myself, I can be honest about how I feel, I can share my opinions, and they can share theirs with me back and forth. We don't even have to fix it up. We don't have to try to hide anything. We put ego to the side. We put personal convictions to the side, to the point where we don't, if we disagree with each other, it's not going to lead to an argument. The next thing that I want to talk about this circle of 7 is, what we do is we learn from our differences. All of us are different. There's 6 other guys and myself. Not all of us have the same backgrounds. Not all of us have even the same ethnicity. That's very important, because when you go out there and start trying to get your circle of 7 started, which I hope that you're out there doing that, because I've talked about this every week for a while now, go out there, men, reach out. Here's the problem we have with men, as men rather. We talk about everything except those things that are important to us, those things that are important to our development as men all the way around. Now, what do I mean by that? We can talk about football, we can talk about basketball, we can talk about girls, we can talk about the weather, we can talk about politics, we can talk about a whole lot of things. But when we start talking about how you interact with other men, how you interact with your significant other, what problems have you come up and come in contact with raising your children, and decisions that you've made along those lines over the years, we don't talk so freely about those things. Those are the kinds of things that we got to start to open up with each other, because I've learned in the short time that I've been doing this, that I learned so much, I gained so much knowledge and comfort from talking to other men and finding out that, hey, I wasn't always right, but I was, even more importantly, I wasn't always wrong, and I'm not the only one going through some of these problems. So my circle of 7 is complete. Now, as I told you before, my circle of 7 starts out as just me and 6 other guys. But I hope from that circle of 7, my circle will continue to grow and to grow and to grow, and that way a network is formed. the Respect Yourself Network, starting with that first group of 7, turning to 14, 21, so that's as far as I can count without using a calculator, so you understand what I'm talking about. I want the group to grow. Now, we're talking today about when your help hinders others, or as I said a while ago, learning to get out of the way. Now, you know, a lot of these topics that I come up with comes from these conversations. Now, one of my brothers, a member of my circle of 7, he and I were sitting down talking a few weeks ago, and we were talking about problems with rearing children. We were talking about the generational gap between where we were when they were their age and where they are now. Now, as again, I said, now some of these guys that I'm talking to out there are a little bit older than me, some of them a little bit younger, but we're contemporary, we're in there. So in my audience that I hope I'm reaching out there with the Respect Yourself Network, I expect some of you guys to be a little bit older, a little bit younger. So you got to take everything I say with a grain of salt. Again, it's just an opinion. It may not apply to you directly today. It may apply to you a little bit further down the road, or you may be looking back at some things. Myself, my youngest child, and I'll say this and try to cover up a little bit of this gray while I'm saying it. My youngest is 32 years old. So now, I don't have any small children, but I do have small grandchildren. I got teenagers and I've got toddlers. And now I've got a couple of great grandchildren, I am ashamed to admit, but I do have a couple of great children and great grandchildren and maybe another one on the way. I hope not, but maybe I do. But the point I'm trying to make is the guy I was talking to, he's a little bit younger than me, but he does have adult children. So the conversation we got into that day was talking about problems that we shared in dealing with concerns of our children. And he said a few things that caused me to stop and think. And once I stop and think, I've learned to start writing some of my thoughts down on paper because I want to share my thoughts with you. When your help hinders others. There comes a time in grown folks' lives, okay, I'm putting an emphasis on that. There comes a time in grown folks' lives when they got to make it or break it for themselves. You know, that old adage about you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And a little simplistic, but I think the point I'm trying to make is every once in a while you can push and you can pull, you can lead, you can guide. But every adult human being, grown folk, when you get, some people in their late 50s and 60s that haven't got grown yet because they still don't think how a grown person should be thinking, taking on that responsibility that goes along with being a man or a woman or whatever position you find yourself in with respect to family matters and things of that matter. But the point I'm trying to make is there comes a time in every grown folks' life when they have to make it or break it themselves. They've got to make the decision that I'm going to do better, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to put the effort in, I'm going to make the sacrifices, I'm going to do whatever. And you can't pinpoint when that is going to happen in everybody's lives. Now, as parents, what we try to do is we try to kind of guide our kids that way, try to ease them that way, try to direct them in some form or fashion so that we think at that particular time in life, the light's going to come on and they're going to get it and they're going to start moving forward. Well, the frustration comes in is, once again, that light comes on at different times in different people's lives. But there will come a time when that light comes on. The only thing we can hope and pray is that it's not too late. Now, here is the Mike Isom theory of relativity. Now, this is one of those things, don't go look it up and say the Isom theory of relativity. You won't find that in the dictionary, or you won't find it in the encyclopedia because I got it all stored right up here. This is where I keep all my good stuff. Anyway, the Isom theory of relativity suggests that in our efforts to provide a better life for our children and their children, we might have created pitfalls instead of advantages. Now, what do I mean by that? My parents struggled with limited resources, okay? My dad was not college educated. My mom had some technical training, things of that nature. But, for the most part, a child of the late 50s, early 60s, unless you was a school teacher or a doctor or what, it was very limited possibilities and advantages in the area in which I found myself growing up. Okay? So my parents did the best they could, but what they did was just barely provided for our necessities on a day-to-day basis. Now, my dad worked 2 jobs sometimes, from sun up to sundown. My mom, like I said, she worked, and then in the evening she went to school and she got some certificates to learn how to do better things and start making a little bit more money later on. But I'm talking about in my younger years, between the ages of, let's say, 0 and 15 or 16, we were, hey, I can't fix it in any kind of way. We were just dirt poor. Of course, the good thing about growing up in my household, we never thought of ourselves as poor. We had what we needed, and we weren't sitting around wishing and pining about for other things that we couldn't afford and things of that nature. For the most part, I had a happy childhood. Every childhood is fraught with some problems, of course, but for the most part, I had a happy childhood. But as I was growing up and started to learn about life outside of my house and outside of my community, outside of my school, I started realizing that there were other people that seemed to have a little bit more, had a little bit more advantages and things. And I said, why can't? Well, a lot of us found ourselves in that position. Now, I'm talking about contemporary. Remember that when I put that caveat at the beginning. Some of you guys are younger, some of you may be a little older. Maybe your understanding of the time period I'm talking about may vary a little bit from what mine are. But I'm talking about in mid 60s. I graduated from high school in 1973. I know that dates me a lot, but that's the year I graduated from high school. So we're talking about in that 10-year period between, let's say, 63 and 73, when I was starting to, fill out my mind and fill out my body and start trying to make things happen. That's the 10 years I'm talking about. Right in there, I started realizing that now comes a time in my life where I got to make some decisions about what I'd like to do. And a lot of us found ourselves in that same position. I'm not holding myself up as being different from anybody else that grew up in that time frame. A lot of us found ourselves in that position. So what we did was, some of us graduated from high school and went into the service and went that way. Some of us were blessed enough to be able to go to college and try to do things of that nature. But a great deal of us went out there and just got on these jobs, with some of the big brand name companies that we had. The doors have been closed to our parents. Now these doors are being forced open by circumstances and situations that we thank God for every day. But now all of a sudden we had those jobs. And we got into those manufacturing jobs, productivity jobs, and we held on to those positions and moved up the ladder or held on to the ladder at any rate. But the idea that I'm trying to get at, what we were doing was trying to make a better life for our children. Once we started marrying and having children and bringing families up and things of that nature, we had a memory of those days in the not so distant past where we didn't have the opportunities that a lot of people around us might have had. So now we made a decision, a conscious decision, that what we were going to do was we're going to make sure our children didn't have the same disadvantages that we might have thought we had. And sometimes when I look back in retrospect, I'm not so sure they were disadvantages, because it gave us an opportunity to get some kind of drive and grit that make us move forward and want to do better for ourselves. So these opportunities created and manifested themselves in a lot of different ways. That's the point I'm trying to make. Not everybody went to college. Not everybody was a superstar athlete. Not everybody was able to go out but one way or another, the parents that we became in the 70s and 80s were in a little bit more advantageous situation than the parents that we had in the 50s and 60s. So we went out there and we started doing all these things, and we want to make sure that our children had it better than what we had. That's all I was trying to say. That whole 5-minute diatribe I just went through was just trying to make that point. But my thought about that going back to the Isom theory of relativity, is while we were creating these advantages, did we inadvertently make some disadvantages? Did we put our children in a position where, because they didn't have the struggles we had, because they got things handed to them a little bit easier than those things we had to fight and claw and struggle for when we were coming along, did we take away some of that drive and initiative that we had. And now here we are, full circle. Now they're young adults and they're coming up, or they're in their late teens, or wherever you find yourself in this, on this time continuum. But we're looking at them and we're wondering why they don't attack problems the way we attack problems. I'm saying my theory of relativity is maybe we were part of that problem. We were successful in creating a void, in other words. We created a void of grit and determination. Even though we were doing what we thought was the best. Here's a story for you. You know I always have to tell a story, so here's my story. A few years ago, several years ago, my son and I were on a gospel program, and we did a duet, a song. And the song that we chose to do was called "I Miss My Time with You." That was the song that we sang. Okay, now it started out, I had the opening verse, and then my son sang a verse, and then blah, blah, blah. And of course, at the end of it, was very dramatic. And then we had the people swooning in the aisles, but that was not the point. The storyline of the song was this. The story was about a man who was going out every day, working hard, trying to create situations and opportunities for his children. He stayed gone all day and all night. He even worked through some weekends. He missed their baseball games, their basketball games, those conversations and conflicts that all children have, that they need that man to engage with them to help them see their way through. Well, this man in the song was out there, thought he was doing all the right things. He was going to work every day. He was being faithful to his wife. He was bringing his money home. He was paying his bill. He was making sure his children had nice clothes to wear to school. They lived in a safe neighborhood. Everybody was taken care of. But the children were still missing something. And what they were missing was that time with him. So you see how the song would go. You know, the guy was singing about this is what I do and this is why I do and yada, yada, yada. And then the son would step up to the mic and he started singing about, yeah, but you didn't make my basketball team. The basketball game. You weren't there when I got my heart broken the first time. And on and on and on. Of course, at the end of the song, as songs go, by the end of the song, the father started to realize that he needed to stop worrying about providing so much the physical aspects of life and start dealing with more with the emotional aspects of life. For they missed their time with their father. Yeah, we got a nice car. Yeah, we got a nice house. Yeah, we ride around in a nice neighborhood and blah, 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 blah. But we miss you. Now, because of the religious aspect of what we were doing in the song and everything else, we took it to a spiritual level. Say the same thing with God and his relationship with us as men. I miss my time with you. The story started out dad and his son, but then we started thinking about even bigger picture. God puts us here and wants us to do what we need to do to be successful, but not to the point where we start cutting off ourselves from him. I miss my time with you. Simple as that. So I took all of that, folded it into this Isom theory of relativity thing, and started talking about how we react with our children and what we anticipate from them, what we expect of them. So much has been made in this day and time about millennials feeling entitled and not embracing respect for their fellow man, a sense of conservation or preservation of values and commitment and loyalty. I don't agree with that. I really don't agree with that when you say this whole Generation X thing, that these kids are, they're never going to make it. I just think that we got to figure out a way to reach out to them in a way that they can understand. And then again, going back to this whole thing about that I was talking about what examples are we setting for them, or what examples did we set? That now when we're going back and trying to correct maybe some mistakes we made or do things better than we've been doing them, we need to take in consideration. When we were growing up, we were in a more of an in-your-face kind of struggle just to be accepted, just to be alive, just to have anything. We took away that drive. We've created a softer ground for them to grow in. And so now when those struggles coming on to them that we had to deal with in 13 and 14 and 15 years old, they're starting to deal with some of these and coming to grips with their fallacies and their misconceptions and their weaknesses at 23, 24, and 25. Oh, eyes came open right then, didn't it? 13, 14, 15, I'm learning that if I don't put in the effort, I get no results. 13, 14, 15, I'm finding out that if I put in the effort, sometimes I do the right thing for the right reason and put my shoulder to the wheel and grind, and sometimes life just pulls the rug off my knee and you still don't make it. But at 13, 14, 15, I've got time to recover, learn, and grow from that. Now, they're finding out those challenges at 24, 23, 24, and 25. You see the void there? There's a difference. So we're expecting them to step up and with a sense of understanding and urgency and sense of responsibility that we got at a much earlier age, and we're wondering why they're not doing it. But we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The problem we have is we've got to learn how to deal with them and adjust to what their circumstances are and try to understand how they got that way. The thought was that they don't really understand that they still, even now, even with all the the examples we've set for them over the years, they don't really understand what it takes to be successful. They don't really understand what it means to make the sacrifices to make sure that everything and everybody else is doing well. So now they're basking in our success. We look back at that and we say, well, okay, when I was 22 years old, I owned my own house, I had my own car, I understood what it took to make it. Now, my daughter is 25 and she with a guy that doesn't have a car, he's living at home in his mama's basement, all these kinds of things, but she expects her life to have the same trappings as the life she's already had. But the man she's involved with doesn't have the same drive that I had when I came up. So, baby girl, this is what I want to say to you. You got it because I did it. You have what you have because I made these sacrifices and I did what I do. Now, I want you to take some of that and apply it to the young man that you're so enamored with right now and say, I want those things. But she can't understand that. And she definitely can't understand it if I go to her like that. Now, here's where my point comes in about knowing when your help becomes a hindrance. Now, there's a lesson that has to be learned. The lesson that has to be learned is that you got to put in effort. You got to make sacrifices. You got to set a plan in motion. You got to follow through with some things to make things happen. You don't learn that by sitting around and just receiving benefit from somebody else's effort. The only time you learn that is the same way you and I learned it back when we were 14, 15, 16. We went out there, we wanted things that we couldn't have. Hard lesson, can't have it. Haven't put the work in yet, can't get it, okay? So now now if I want it, I got to go get it. We went out there and we put effort in and we did the right thing for the right reason, still didn't get it. You see the connection I'm making? Now here she is, or he, 24, 25 years old, they're just now learning that lesson. But when we jump in every time because we love them and we still want them to do so well, what we do is we step up and we make the bad go away. I don't care what the situation is because we love them, we're going to step up. Dad, I don't have the money to pay for my phone this week, or can you help me pay my insurance on my car? All these things are little nominal things that we're talking about, but there are bigger issues that they deal with. We don't want them ever to suffer. We don't want them to ever be disappointed. We don't want them to ever do without. So we always come running in to make the bad go away. That being the case, we consistently come in with hugs and kisses and cash advances over and over and over again. And we perpetuate this idea that all they got to do is have us and they'll be okay. Going back to my original statement, there comes a time in grown folks' lives when they have to understand it's time for them to make it or break it. Now, one of the things is one of the isomerism analogies I've drawn before. You've probably heard me say it before. One of the hardest things to do is when you see somebody you love in the fire and they burning up, fire of, circumstances and situations, they are burning up and you love them and you want to reach out. So you run in the fire and you grab them and you burn yourself. You come out smelling like smoke, you got your hair singed, and you pull them out, and sometimes they fighting you the whole way, but you pull them out, and you get them out, and you put them on safe, cool ground. And then you go back and start trying to recover and get yourself together, but when you look back over your shoulder, you see them crawling right back into that same fire you just pulled them out of. That's a very hard thing. But I'm saying to you today, when your help becomes a hindrance to their growth, when your help becomes a hindrance to their maturity, that's the time to stop, reevaluate your relationship with your child or with that person that you're trying to have a positive influence over, and wonder, is it time for you to learn how to get out of the way? Sometimes you gotta let them burn a little bit. That's very hard to do. We love them. I don't want anybody writing letters to the station saying, that guy's crazy, he's talking about burning children. No, I'm talking about sometimes letting them reap what they sow. Now, of course, you got to watch what's going on and reach in there and make sure it don't destroy them if you can. But sometimes those life lessons have to be learned. When your help becomes a hindrance to another, time to learn how to get out of the way. The prevailing challenge for us, I guess I'm trying to say, is to avoid that tendency to always run to the rescue and learn to let them learn for themselves. I respect you. I hope you respect me. But above all, respect yourself. This has been the Respect Yourself Network. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another topic.